Hello Internet, this is TheStabbyBrit, and I wanted to begin this video by doing something I don't do often enough and just saying thank you to my patrons, Mr. Mundy and Link Z. I do appreciate your support, especially since the headset I'm currently using to record with is falling to pieces and in desperate need of repair or replacement. So, replacement, because who the fuck repairs anything these days? Anyway, today's video is inspired by, well, the fact that I haven't really had time to look for things to respond to, and the fact I've been arguing with a lot of people on the internet lately. Mainly about politics and such. So I thought I would try and get some of my thoughts out on one of the subjects that kept cropping up, and this idea of nationalism. Now, I consider myself to be a nationalist, and I do not see there being anything wrong with being a nationalist. As long as you're not a national socialist, obviously, because we tried that. Didn't work very well. So, first off, let's define terms. When I say nationalist, I mean essentially someone who's focused on the interests and well-being of their nation. That's basically it. It's essentially the view of, I don't give a fuck what's going on outside my borders, as long as it doesn't screw over the people inside my borders. And this is not to be confused with isolationism. That's just me trying to give a nice broad definition. You know, a nationalist is focused on their nation first, all else second. I don't think isolationist nationalism could work. I'm not sure there's any nation that could actually prosper in isolation anymore. I think the world has moved too far. I don't know if it was ever possible, but it's certainly not possible now. But anyway, this is in stark contrast to the globalist view, which basically sees the nation as being obsolete and everyone is effectively interchangeable. We are all one people. We are all one. Things like borders should be irrelevant. That view is extremely dangerous, as anyone who actually fucking well pays attention to the news should know by now. I think a lot of the problems in the world right now are caused by a lack of nationalist governments. Certainly we don't have any we have plenty of globalists, but we don't have any anti-globalists. Hopefully we will soon. You know, Donald Trump, I think, is probably the first big nationalist figurehead. And that's where my basic latest argument came up. It was this idea of Trump's anti-immigration policies are equivalent to Nazism. Well, no, they're not. I mean, one of the core tenets of nationalism is that you look after your country, and one of the ways you look after your country is by vetting who comes in. And let's be honest, nobody has a right to enter your country unless the government says they do. So why should the government give permission for anyone to enter your country if they're not going to be a net gain? Now, the article in question that sparked the latest argument was Trump wanting to reveal the criminal actions of immigrants and say, you know, immigrants who commit crimes. I know it gave the examples of things like murder, so I don't know exactly what the scope is, but there's potential for increased deportation powers. I don't see a problem with that. I would certainly see a problem if, for example, a load of murderous Brits went to America and started fucking the place up and killing people and got deported back here. I would imagine there'd be plenty of people who'd be quite happy to see them just dumped into the Atlantic, but that's not really an option. You know, we don't want murderers either. But if these murderers come from another country, if they're not born in your country, you don't have any responsibility for them. So why the fuck would you keep them? This is one of the things I don't understand when people are against deportation of immigrants. I understand, yes, okay, we're not necessarily talking about illegal immigrants. We are in some cases talking about legal immigrants who come in legally and then commit crimes and then get told to fuck off. Well, you know, fair enough. I mean, I don't see that as a problem either. My logic on that is, if I say you can come into your house, that doesn't... So, let me try that again. If I say you can come into my house, that makes more sense. That doesn't mean you have permission to start smashing my shit up. I'm more than entitled to throw you out if I decide that your behaviours are no longer up to my standards. When you come into a country, You come into a country with the unspoken agreement that you're not going to break the law. So this is me horribly confused at the outcry against this idea. The idea that we should all be offended by the fact Trump might want to throw out a bunch of immigrants who are now causing trouble, whether they are legal or otherwise. But to kind of wander back onto the nationalist point, one of the reasons I am a nationalist is, well, actually there's two reasons. The first one is probably going to raise red flags and I'm sure will be taken out of context. I am a nationalist. I am also a socialist. Because you cannot be a globalist socialist. Not if you actually want the socialist utopia you dream of. You just can't. Because in order for socialism to work, you know, the way we all imagine it will, there's going to be a welfare state. There's bound to be a welfare state. And welfare states need money from taxes. So from the people who work. And the whole thing will basically fall apart if you have too many people who don't work, or who don't pay taxes, or who simply put less into the system than they take out. So in order for socialism to work, you can't have too many unemployed people and you can't have too many poor people. And that's kind of important because, generally speaking, migrants, especially currently in Europe, are not highly educated, highly skilled workers. Now, I am well aware there are plenty of migrants who are highly educated and highly skilled. Quite a few of them work in the NHS. I've had first-hand experience with quite a few of them, and I'm happy to have them here. However, the kind of society I want to live in will not work if we have too many people draining from the system without putting significant amounts back in. And one of the ways to make sure that doesn't happen, the whole thing doesn't collapse, is you have border controls. And you say, I'm sorry, I know you want to come and live in utopian Britain, but you weren't born here, you don't contribute enough, you don't appear to have any skills we need. Sorry, bye, go back to your own country, turn that into a utopia just like we did with ours. That's how it should work. And I actually think that in the long term, that attitude will help the rest of the world. Because if everybody wants to live in utopia Britain, you know, my socialist fantasy of how Britain should be, if everybody wants to live here and we tell them all, fuck off, what are they going to do? That we have the society they want, but they have to stay where they are. Well, what's to stop them turning their country into a copy of utopian Britain? Well, presumably the voters. But hopefully the idea is that people will be encouraged to improve their own countries if they can't just run away from their country and jump ship onto somebody else's. That's the theory. Who knows? Maybe it will work, maybe it won't. I'm sure somebody will be giving me a long, detailed essay that will prove it won't work and the only option is a globalist Marxist government. Still, the other reason I am a nationalist is because I am a liberal. And I am sometimes, okay, I'm quite often coming across as very intolerant of ideas. But generally speaking, I am not intolerant of other people's ideas. I'm only intolerant of other people's ideas if I actually have to live with them. You know, I mean, it's basically the idea, if you want to go and live in a cave somewhere, then fine, go and live in a cave and you can do whatever the fuck you want in that cave because it will never affect me because you will never leave the cave. And that's kind of the logic I apply here. In fact, that's pretty much the logic I apply here. One of the reasons I talk so much about what's going on in America and occasionally what's going on in Europe is because they have a potential to impact me. You know, we live in a society where, whether we like it or not, America leads the charge on a lot of things like social issues. And now that America has a nationalist president and is becoming less tolerant of globalism, we should see globalism on the decline. And we're seeing in Europe the rise of nationalist, anti-globalist, anti-EU powers. And I think we're going to see an end to globalism. And that's a good thing because I fucking hate globalism. I think it's done terrible things to my country. I think it's done terrible things to the world, and I want it to fucking stop. So that's why I take an interest in these things, and that's why I talk about them, and that's why I talk to people in that country. However, let's take, I don't know, let's take another issue. Let's take something non-trivial. Non-trivial. Fucking hell, I am terrible with words. Let's take something you know what I'm trying to say. Something that will not cause a shitstorm. Alcohol. There we go. Who can get offended by alcohol? The age of consent for drinking alcohol. I don't know if this is making any fucking sense. The legal age for drinking alcohol in the United States is 21. Which really pissed me off when I went there in my late teens, early 20s. But over here in the UK, it's 16 with a meal with your parents. And 18 if you just want to go for a pint down the pub. So let's call it 18. Who's right? Oh, well, obviously, we're right because we're British. But let's pretend we're German, or French, or Scottish. No, not Scottish, they're always wrong. Let's pretend we're German, and we're going to say the age for drinking in German is 18. Who's right between Germany and America? Well, it could be either way. There's arguments both sides. Ultimately, however, as long as people can do what they want, if people in America, if the vast majority of Americans want the drinking age to be 21, fine, make it 21. That's what you want to do. Germany wants it to be 12, fine, make it 12. That's what you want to do. Britain will do their own thing, and we will all basically come to our agreements and run our countries the way we want. And this will make everybody happy, basically, because different people in different countries have different views. And I think breaking down the national identity and suggesting we are all globalist is going to cause more problems than it solves because of these differences, because different countries, different peoples view things in different ways. And obviously when we get to more controversial issues, like, for example, whether or not gay people should be thrown off buildings, or whether women are human beings or cattle, or whether or not you should wait till after puberty before having sex with your child bride. These are the sort of questions which different countries answer differently. And the Islamic countries have universally picked the wrong answers to every single one of these questions. So it's understandable why I don't want any fucking people from these countries coming to my country, because they will bring these wrong ideas with them. Surveys of British Muslims and Swedish Muslims and German Muslims and Muslims from all across the country and the world all agree that Islamic communities are way behind Western values, universally. And this is another good reason for nationalism, because we can have our border and we can say, no, you people are not coming here, you're not bringing these ideas, we are not going to live by your values. Fuck off to an Islamic country if you want to live by Islamic values. Now, one of the reasons I fucking hate being a liberal is that in order to actually be fair and consistent, I have to accept that people do have a right to live by these rules. And as much as I do not want to, I am going to have to concede that. I am going to concede that as long as, if people want to live by Islamic rules, as long as they are in an Islamic country, and we can argue about whether or not these countries are Islamic or just under Islamic occupation all you want, but if the people in Saudi Arabia agree democratically, or at least the popular opinion is that it is right and proper that you should have sex with a 9-year-old and that women are cattle, well, I don't like that, but I have to accept it. I have to accept that if that's how the people of these countries want to live, I don't have a right to demand that our government go and bomb Saudi Arabia back to the Stone Age because I don't like the choices those people have made. And this is the other problem of globalism. This is one of the big problems of globalism, because globalists don't think like that. Globalists don't see a problem with opening borders and just saying, yep, we will take all the people from the Middle East and from North Africa. We'll take all these people from the Islamic world who hold these anti-Western values that Western people despise, and we'll just dump them in the West because they're dirty, illiterate foreigners who will work for cheap. And that is pretty much the view of every single globalist. I mean, if you listen to the apologia, of you can't expect the Muslims coming into Sweden to live by Western values, because only a Westerner can uphold those values. Oh no, I'm gonna avoid going into that. I'll fucking go off on one, because I was watching TLD's live stream and I was reminded at God how fucked up Sweden is with declaring that marrying and raping your underage cousin is perfectly legal and acceptable in Sweden, providing you came from an Islamic country where raping your cousin is considered legal. I mean, it's a fucking clusterfuck. Anyway, I am ranting, and yeah. I don't know how much sense I've made, but I thought I'd just try and get my thoughts out. So, in summary, I think that we need a lot more nationalists. I think that a lot of our problems would be solved by pushing the idea of a national identity. The idea that it's not about being proud of being white or being black or being Arab. It's about being proud of being British. It's being proud of being American. It's being proud of being French or German or Swedish. I don't think there's anyone left who's proud of being Swedish, but And I think a lot of the problems we have with divisions within Western society would be solved if we went back to this idea of we have our values, we are proud of our values, and only people who want our values and want to adopt and uphold our values are welcome to become part of our nation. And everybody else, absolutely everybody else, can get fucked. If we go back to that attitude, I think the world will be a much better place. And that doesn't mean isolationism, and it doesn't mean we stop talking to other countries and we stop trading, and it doesn't mean we ban all migration. It means migration serves the nation, not the nation serves the migrants. Anyway, that will do. Thank you for listening, those who made it this far. Thanks again to my patrons. Hopefully, I will actually have something worth watching out soon. Don't count on it.